My fiancée had always been one to keep her promises, yet she failed to show up for our wedding as agreed. On the day of the ceremony, the giant screen behind the altar suddenly broadcast intimate photos of her and her stepbrother. The crowd erupted in an uproar. My grandmother, witnessing the humiliation, suffered a massive heart attack on the spot. I called my fiancée, begging her to come back and see my grandmother one last time. Instead, she lashed out at me over the phone. Why does her being so fragile have anything to do with me? You're such bad luck. I'm hanging up. Later, my grandmother passed away. After handling her funeral arrangements alone, I applied for a fashion design program abroad. When I returned home to pack, my fiancée, having just returned from her stepbrother's fashion show, looked completely unbothered. Ethan, how is Grandma? Let's just pick another good day for the wedding. It'll make the old woman happy. She didn't know that the moment my grandmother died, my heart had already gone completely cold toward her. After finishing the funeral arrangements and returning to our apartment, I didn't stop moving, throwing myself into packing. The apartment, not particularly large to begin with, felt hollow and empty now that Grandma was gone. Every rustle and clatter I made while packing seemed piercingly loud in the silence. Halfway through, a pristine, elegant wedding dress caught my eye. It was the one Grandma and I had hand-stitched together for Chloe. But she would never see her grandson's bride wear it. Lost in thought, I suddenly felt arms wrap around my waist from behind. It's beautiful. Is it for me? Chloe asked, her voice dripping with sweetness and feigned innocence. If this were the past, I would have turned around and hugged her, teasing her affectionately for asking the obvious, telling her the dress could only belong to her. But now, I had no mood for her games. I coldly told her to let go. Then I said, "This is a piece Grandma and I designed together. It's not for anyone." Chloe seemed surprised by my attitude, but didn't think much of it, reaching out to touch the dress. "Stop pretending. The size fits me perfectly." I quickly blocked her, preventing her from touching it. She paused for a second, then pouted coquettishly. "Ethan, stop being mad. You've been giving me the silent treatment for 2 weeks. It was just a wedding. Can't you be the bigger person and forgive me this one time?" A trace of bitterness flashed through my heart. To her, it was just a wedding. How could it compare to the importance of watching her stepbrother walk the runway? She was the one who humiliated Grandma and me, making us the laughingstock of friends and family. Yet now she spoke as if I were the one being petty and narrow-minded. Over 2 weeks ago, because of her, I became a joke in everyone's mouth, and Grandma died with regrets. I had depended on Grandma for survival since childhood. She had always hoped I would start a family. She was afraid that after she was gone, I would be all alone. She had looked forward to that wedding day for most of her life, never expecting it to end in such a tragedy. Afterward, Grandma died of a heart attack, filled with regret. After her passing, the neighbors gossiped about me behind my back. I heard only his side of the family was at the wedding. No one from the bride's side showed up. And indecent photos of his fiancée and another man appeared at the ceremony. It literally angered his grandmother to death. How unfilial. If she had known, the old woman shouldn't have picked him off the streets. She picked up her own karma. She scrimped and saved to put him through school, raised him with such difficulty. And in the end, she didn't enjoy a single good day before being angered to death. Who knows what sin she committed? The ridicule from the neighbors made my life miserable. Yet, even now, she thought I was just throwing a tantrum. "Handsome Ethan, let's make up, okay? I don't want to fight anymore." Chloe's voice broke my train of thought. "It's not a fight. Let's break up." I hadn't said the words yet. Chloe tilted her head, looking at me, putting on a quirky, playful expression. "If it's not a fight, what is it? Are you jealous?" "Oh, come on. Haven't I explained it to you several times? Julian is just my brother. And that show was very important to him. I could not go. We can hold the wedding anytime." She said it so lightly. True, she probably didn't know about the disaster at the wedding yet. But even if the wedding could be held anytime, could my grandmother come back to life? Could the damage she did to me be erased? To her, Grandma and I would always be the backup options. Only her stepbrother was the priority. I didn't respond to her words, just buried my head and continued organizing my clothes. "I'll help you." Chloe, sensing the mood, didn't say more and squatted down to help. She casually picked up a pair of plush gloves, frowning in disgust. "This teddy bear looks so cheap, and it's so worn out. Should we throw it away?" I reached out, took the bear, and treasured it by placing it into a delicate box. As I took the bear, I noticed the couple's ring on her hand. It wasn't the one I gave her when I proposed. It was the latest style designed by a famous jeweler not long ago. Seeing my gaze linger, Chloe quickly pulled her hand back. She said calmly, "I was afraid of losing the wedding ring you gave me, so I took it off and left it home. This is a gift from my brother. You won't get angry over this again, will you? I actually didn't feel much about her boundary-crossing behavior anymore. I just remembered when I gave her the engagement ring, she casually tossed it into her bag, and I never saw her wear it again. She said she didn't like having things on her hands. It affected her work and was inconvenient. Even the custom wedding ring I meticulously designed, she only wore for a while that night before taking it off. But now, she wore the ring her stepbrother gave her, reluctant to take it off for even a moment. Recently, videos of her interactions with her stepbrother had gone viral. It was hard not to see them. The reports were full of sweet interactions between the wealthy heiress and her stepbrother with no blood relation. Details of them wearing couples' rings were also dug up. Some speculated this was a taboo romance in a wealthy family, while others felt their sibling relationship was pure and enviable. I felt no surprise or jealousy regarding her and her stepbrother. I had long grown accustomed to it. I spoke flatly. This is the first birthday gift Grandma bought me with money she saved for a long time when I was a child. Chloe felt regret for her words just now. Sorry, Ethan, I didn't know this was a gift from Grandma. If you like it, how about I buy you a new bear for your next birthday? By the way, how is Grandma's health recently? Next time I have time, I'll go with you to visit her. She always said she would visit Grandma with me when she had time, but she never did. No need, I replied flatly. Chloe frowned, using a teasing tone. Oh, is this little jealous jar? So hard to coax. Oh, stop being angry. Anyway, I've already accepted your proposal. The wedding isn't urgent. I'm not running away. What are you afraid of? In a while, we'll pick a good date together, book a bigger and more luxurious hotel, and hold a lively ceremony to make Grandma happy, okay? Perhaps because she was happy after seeing her stepbrother's show, she was exceptionally talkative today and willing to cater to me repeatedly. If I continued to contradict her, she probably wouldn't have the patience to keep dealing with me. But this time, it wasn't a small squabble. It wasn't a trivial matter. I remember the day I proposed to her. She didn't seem very happy. She just hurriedly put on the ring and left the proposal scene I had prepared for days. And that was just to accompany her stepbrother for his birthday. But that day was also my birthday. I wanted to propose to the woman I loved on my birthday and obtain my happiness. She forgot my birthday, and even the ceremony I prepared for so long wasn't taken seriously. Later, for the wedding, I instructed her repeatedly to ensure she and her family attended, to meet and have a meal together. Unexpectedly, she broke the promise again. From the moment Grandma died, there was truly no possibility for us anymore. I remained indifferent, showing no sign of reconciliation. There's no need. It's not important anymore. Unable to coax me, Chloe's face suddenly changed. Ethan Cole, what do you mean? I've been talking nicely for so long. Why do you have to be so petty? It's just a wedding. Is it necessary? Are you that desperate? Would you die if it was postponed a few days? I've been talking to you nicely. What is this attitude? You really don't want to work this out, huh? A grown man being so petty? I'm really impressed. She wanted to say more, but her phone rang. Her tense face instantly relaxed, the corners of her mouth turning up. What is it? I'm still at my boyfriend's. The caller was her stepbrother. When she answered, the screen clearly displayed Julian. I didn't know what was said on the other end, but she listened while picking up her bag from the sofa and taking out a lipstick to touch up her makeup. While applying lipstick, she laughed and said, "It's all your fault, making my boyfriend angry. I've been coaxing him for so long and still can't fix it." Okay, wait a moment, I'll be right there. After hanging up, she told me in a gentle tone, "I have to go out for a bit. Don't overthink it. Julian and I grew up together, you know all this. As for the wedding, we'll just make up for it next time. Don't be mad. Cool off at home. Stop throwing a tantrum." With that, she turned and left. Downstairs, Julian Thorne thoughtfully opened the car door for Chloe and even bent down to fasten her seatbelt. Chloe seized the opportunity to snatch the lollipop from his mouth and put it directly into her own. She didn't think there was anything wrong with it at all. Julian pinched her cheek affectionately, and then the two drove away. I stood by the window for a long time after they left. Only when I snapped back to reality did I walk to the desk. I organized the documents needed for going abroad and put them in a sealed bag. I stacked the acceptance letter from Parsons School of Design and my resignation letter together, stuffing them into a file folder. The next day, I arrived at the company early in the morning to handle the procedures. Passing the break room, hushed whispers drifted out clearly. "Hey, did you hear? Ethan asked for leave for his wedding last time, but the bride didn't show up." Julia's voice, laced with mockery, sounded a bit gleeful. "Really? What happened?" someone asked. "I don't know the details. That woman is very mysterious. Ethan keeps it very tight." Julia continued, her tone becoming increasingly harsh. "Maybe she didn't like him at all and was just playing with him, but but he took it seriously. Someone like him, how could anyone really want to marry him? He's been at the company for years and is still just a small assistant with no progress. Anyone who marries him would be truly cursed. I stood outside the door, hearing every word clearly. In the years I was with Chloe, I was never publicly acknowledged by her. In the eyes of her colleagues, I was just an incompetent assistant. In her parents' eyes, I was just a college classmate, and occasionally when seen by her friends, my identity became her driver. Even on the day of our engagement, she didn't tell her parents, as if I were a shameful mouse. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but want to laugh. I walked silently straight to my desk, not wanting to waste time acknowledging them. Recent events had exhausted me. I didn't want to waste a shred of time and energy on meaningless things. Behind me, those hushed discussions followed like maggots on a bone. Sigh. I heard his grandmother just passed away. Have some decency. Just then, a gentle voice sounded behind me. Ethan. I turned around. It was Deputy Director Evelyn Vance. She was around 40, with a capable aura and sharp eyes that held a trace of imperceptible fatigue. She was a high-level executive known for her professionalism and strictness, but she was fair and had spoken up for me a few times when I was being made difficult. Director Vance. I nodded slightly. She looked at the file folder in my hand containing the acceptance letter, her tone calm. Are you sure you want to leave? Yes. I nodded. I recommended you go before, and you refused without thinking. Why change your mind suddenly? I replied flatly. There is no one here worth staying for anymore. Besides, it's time I considered what I want to do. That's good. Speaking of which, employees who came in after you with less ability have been promoted and given raises, yet you've been stifled. Now, going out to learn and venture is good. You're still young. It's not too late. Parsons is a good place. It will let you get in touch with more cutting-edge concepts. It's also a chance to escape some of the unhappiness here. She paused, her gaze sweeping over my empty desk, seemingly implying something. I've seen your ink dye series sketches. The deconstruction of traditional ink wash atmosphere and the grasp of fabric drape show great ideas. That's not the level of a small assistant. I was stunned, not expecting her to validate me. Then, she handed me a thick envelope and said, This is a recommendation letter I wrote to several professors at Parsons and a few independent designer studios in New York. I have some old acquaintances there. Maybe they can help you gain a foothold sooner. I took the envelope, feeling its weight, my throat tightening. Director Vance, thank you. But why are you willing to help me? Evelyn smiled faintly, a smile containing a bit of sarcasm toward the world and a rare warmth. In this circle, sometimes talent is the cheapest thing. Connections, resources, and good opportunities are occasionally more important than talent. She didn't explicitly state the unfairness I encountered, but we understood each other. I experienced some messy things when I was young too, so I don't want to see a talented young person buried by these dirty tactics. Fashion design should be a career of creating beauty and expressing oneself, not a tool abused by anyone. She patted my shoulder, her tone solemn. Ethan, let those who try to trap and suppress you know that true talent cannot be suppressed. Your future will definitely be limitless. Thank you, Evelyn. Watching her leave, I tightened my grip on the envelope. In this company filled with malice and contempt, Evelyn's recognition and help were like a ray of light penetrating the gloom. Although faint, it was enough to give me a little warmth. Before leaving, I threw the withered potted plant into the trash can under the table without hesitation. That was the onboarding commemorative gift Chloe gave me on my first day. When I first received this gift, I was full of joy, taking care of this small plant meticulously every day. When she gave it to me, Chloe said to treat it as if she were accompanying me at work. With it accompanying me, I wouldn't be lonely. Because of that sentence, since joining the company, I hadn't gone a day without taking good care of that plant. Until one night 2 months ago, I took the plant home to care for it. She happened to be drunk and personally told me, "This flower is just a trinket I casually took from my dad. I didn't expect you to treat it like a treasure and worship it every day." It cracks me up. Perhaps she just felt it was a pity to throw it away, so she handed it to me. I, however, treated it as her precious sentiment, protecting it carefully for several years. Seeing me throw the withered plant into the trash, Chloe walked toward me in disbelief. She demanded, "Why are you throwing the flower away? Haven't you made enough of a scene? Just throwing away trash. Is there a problem, Director Sterling?" But that's my... She didn't finish her sentence because she didn't want people to know she gave it to me. She was always afraid of people knowing our relationship, worried I would embarrass her. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. I turned to go, but was blocked by her again. It's working hours. Where are you going? Why is everything on your desk gone? I've already resigned. Chloe's face turned ugly. Since when? Who allowed you to resign? I haven't signed off on it yet. How can you resign? That has nothing to do with me. I'm leaving. Chloe ran to the stairwell and grabbed my hand, putting on a smile again. Ethan, didn't I explain everything about last time? Why are you still sulking? Next time, won't it be fine if we make up a more luxurious ceremony? Why do you have to use resignation to spite me? Before I could speak, seeing someone approaching, Chloe quickly let go of my hand. I took the opportunity to get away from her. Returning home, with nothing to do in the afternoon, I went out for a walk. Like a ghost led by fate, I walked to the entrance of the Sweet Nothings dessert shop on the west side of Chicago. The glass window was still bright, displaying exquisite, sweet cakes inside. This was a place Chloe and I came to often during college. Pushing the door open, the familiar wind chimes tinkled. The layout hadn't changed. Even the sweet aroma permeating the air was the same as before. I chose a corner seat by the window and ordered a tiramisu and an Americano. I grew up in a dilapidated tenement building on the south side, a child picked up from the garbage by Grandma. Grandma used to be a cleaner. She raised me bit by bit with hands covered in calluses and cracks. We lived on a damp first floor, relying on a small coal stove for heat in winter and a creaky old fan in summer. Grandma often stitched the knees of my worn-out pants while saying, "Ethan, you must study hard. When you grow up, you won't have to struggle like Grandma." Her greatest hope for me was that I could make something of myself and stand tall before others. My initial perception of fashion came from Grandma sewing beautiful patterns over the holes in my clothes. I always thought that when I grew up, I would make her wear the warmest, most beautiful new clothes designed by my own hands. Chloe and I were college classmates. Once, for a design activity, we were paired up to design uniforms for underprivileged children that were both functional and comfortable. Relying on my deep understanding of the performance and modification potential of cheap fabrics, the plan I proposed kept costs down without losing childish fun and ingenuity, unexpectedly gaining her attention. She took the initiative to discuss it with me. "Ethan Cole, your ideas about fabric and structure are so unique. How do you know so much?" From then on, we gradually became familiar. On her 19th birthday, wearing a jacket washed until it was pale, I handed her a gift in the crowd with a heart full of joy. It was a necklace I had scrimped and saved for 3 months to scrape together $2,000 to buy. Later, I learned that this necklace was merely a free gift she could discard at will when buying jewelry from other brands. When surrounding friends presented luxury goods and limited edition designer gifts one after another, the gift I prepared looked like trash, unworthy of being seen. A girl wearing a high-fashion dress glanced at the inconspicuous box, her tone exaggerated with surprise. "What brand is this? It looks so cheap." Instantly, I felt all eyes on me like spotlights. My face burned hot, so embarrassed I wanted to flee immediately. However, Chloe frowned immediately, glaring at the girl, her tone rarely serious. "The value of a gift is the thought, not the price. If you act like this again, don't come in the future." She turned back, took my box, opened it, and took out that cheap necklace, her eyes rippling with genuine surprise. "It's beautiful. Ethan, thank you, I love it." She asked me to put it on her right there, even deliberately pushing aside her thick long hair to show the curious gazes around. "Look, doesn't it match my dress today?" In that moment, she protected my dignity with her kindness. After the party, she stopped me as I was leaving and shoved a huge shoebox at me, her face flushed with a hint of commanding refusal. "For you. Don't you have a physical fitness test next Thursday? Wear these to run faster." I opened it to see a pair of the latest, expensive limited edition sneakers. The price of these shoes was enough to buy dozens of the necklaces I gave her. "No, this is too expensive, I can't." I subconsciously refused. "What do you mean you can't?" She interrupted me, her eyes shining. "Isn't it normal to give friends gifts?" "Friends?" I was stunned. "Yeah, haven't we always been good friends?" She smiled brightly. I could only reply resentfully, "Yes." Afterward, I treated those shoes like a treasure, carefully storing them deep in the closet, reluctant to wear them even once. Only a long time later did I learn through friends around her that those shoes were originally a gift she prepared for her stepbrother. It was only because her stepbrother already had the same pair that she felt she couldn't give them and, thinking they took up space at home, shoved them off on me. I thought it was proof she liked me. Unexpectedly, when I harbored incredibly solemn and anxious feelings and formally confessed to her for the first time, saying, "Chloe, I like you," the smile on her face faded. Her eyes darted around, and finally, she just patted my shoulder, using a tone like coaxing a child. "Ethan, isn't it good how we are now? Let's take it slow. Take it slow, start as friends." I heard this sentence exactly 99 times in the following period. For the 99 confession, I personally designed and sewed a beautiful dress for her and bought a bracelet with saved wages. But when she saw me, a trace of imperceptible irritation flashed in her eyes. Unsurprisingly, it was still that familiar rhetoric. Ethan, I know your feelings, but I don't want to go too fast. At that time, I relied on those past moments and her words to stubbornly believe that as long as I worked hard enough and was sincere enough, I could move her one day. I continued to stay by her side as a good friend, available on call, giving my all. Later, her stepbrother returned from studying abroad. Chloe broke her promise for the first time and didn't come to the restaurant we agreed to go to that night. And that was actually the 100th confession I had prepared. I didn't mind taking 100 steps toward her. That day, when Chloe saw her stepbrother holding hands with a girl leaving the station, the originally proper smile on her face froze instantly. That night, she got dead drunk and called me to pick her up. Seeing me, Chloe choked up a bit. Ethan, her voice carried an imperceptible tremor. Let's be together. I was stunned, my mind blank, almost thinking my long-term obsession had caused hallucinations. 3 years, 99 rejections, and Chloe, who broke her promise without warning to welcome her stepbrother right when I meticulously prepared the 100th confession, actually spoke up to say she wanted to be with me at that moment. W.A., what did you say? I asked in disbelief. I said, let's be together, right now, she repeated, her tone carrying a kind of almost barbaric anxiety. Haven't you always liked me? Liked me for so long, chased me so many times. Now I agree. You walked 99 steps. This last step, I'll take it. The joy in my heart was beyond words, simply melting into a faint sentence. Okay. After graduation, I gave up the chance to study abroad in olive branches extended by large companies. I accepted Chloe's invitation to go to her family's company. I thought at that time, just peacefully accompanying Grandma and Chloe would be the happiest thing in my life. But later, the intimacy between Chloe and her stepbrother, increasingly exceeding the boundaries of ordinary siblings, was like tiny thorns deeply piercing my heart. She would naturally drink the water he drank, taste the food on his plate with his spoon, and even leave lipstick marks on his face as a prank. Whenever I revealed a little discomfort, she always used that tone mixed with impatience and matter-of-factness. Ethan, he's my brother. We are siblings who grew up together. Can you stop being so sensitive and petty? My insecurity, in her view, became ignorant of the big picture and making trouble out of nothing. Sir, we're closing. The waiter's gentle voice woke me from the long and suffocating memories. I snapped back to reality, realizing the sky outside the window had long turned dark and the customers in the shop had scattered. I got up and walked out of the dessert shop. Then I saw Chloe linking arms with her stepbrother coming out of the mall. The two got into the car. While fastening seatbelts, Chloe deliberately kissed Julian on the cheek. Subsequently, Julian kissed her directly on the lips. The two couldn't help but kiss for a while. The next second, Chloe said coquettishly, I'm so tired. Let's go home quickly, brother. I took in everything she did with this stepbrother. When closing the car door, Chloe finally saw me across the road. Instantly, her face changed, the sweet smile freezing on her face. Chloe hesitated for 2 seconds, then closed the car door anyway. Her stepbrother looked in my direction, revealing a triumphant expression, then entered the driver's seat and drove Chloe into the traffic. Before long, phone messages started flashing incessantly on the pop-up window. Chloe's name danced on the screen like a ghost. Returning home and opening my phone, the screen was piled with her messages. Ethan, listen to me explain. It's not what you think. Just now, brother got sand in his eye. I was just helping him blow it out. We really have nothing. That was just an angle issue. Don't see it wrong. Can you reply to me? Being in a Cold War for so long should be enough, right? I didn't care what their relationship actually was. I just felt it was loud, so I simply muted the phone, preparing to sleep properly. The next morning, the doorbell rang shrilly. Through the peephole, I saw Chloe standing outside, and behind her was strikingly her stepbrother, Julian. She actually brought him too. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. Ethan. Chloe had a complex expression on her face, mixing grievance and toughness. Last night, why didn't you reply to my messages? Yesterday's matter was really just a misunderstanding. Why do you always not believe me? Julian stood behind her, a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth, his eyes filled with undisguised scrutiny and contempt. Whatever you two do has nothing to do with me. My voice was so calm it surprised me. Chloe's face turned pale, then she reacted like a cat whose tail was stepped on. Ethan Cole, what do you mean? I'm talking to you nicely. What is this attitude? Julian took a step forward at this moment, his posture composed. Ethan, Chloe just has a childish temper. Don't take it to heart. She was so worried last night, she didn't sleep a wink, and dragged me over early this morning to explain to you. His tone was relaxed, as if discussing an insignificant trifle, but his eyes held a bit of provocation. Whether you two are innocent or filthy, I really have no interest in knowing. I looked at the two of them, my gaze cold. If there's nothing else, please leave. Julian sighed at the right moment, looking worried and helpless. He stepped forward and gently embraced Chloe's shoulders, as if comforting her, but his gaze fell on me. Chloe is just a bit carefree, but her feelings for you are real. Not to mention anything else, just regarding your years at the company. If it weren't for Chloe constantly managing things behind the scenes for you and helping you navigate, given your background and, straightforward personality, you might not have lasted this long. His words seemed to be mediating, but in reality, every word was like a poison-dipped needle, implying I was incompetent and living off a woman. Chloe seemed to be reminded and immediately found a new point of attack, or rather, what she considered a merit point. She raised her chin, her face even taking on a bit of smugness. That's right. Ethan, why do you think you've been so stable in the company? It's all because I talked to my dad and the design director of your department. She spoke self-righteously as if she had granted me a huge favor. Those designs of yours show a little cleverness, but do you think that alone allows you to gain a foothold in the company? The workplace is complicated. I asked them to temper you more and not give you a high position yet, for your own good. Listening to her high theory, my heart felt like it was tightly gripped by a cold hand, my blood almost solidifying. So that was it. So the root of all my hard work over the past 2 years, all the rejected designs, all the humiliation of being suppressed, was here. Not anyone else, but Chloe Sterling. She personally wove an invisible net to trap me firmly, yet complacently thought it was protection for me. Julian nodded slightly from his side, adding in a tone that seemed fair but was actually full of superiority. Although Chloe's method might be a bit direct, her intentions were good. You just work steadily as an assistant in the design department. Avoiding those disputes is indeed the safest choice for you right now. Why must you fight with her over a momentary grievance? Exactly. Chloe nodded vigorously, as if receiving immense support. Ethan, I'm doing this for our future, for your own good. When I completely take over the company later, I'll definitely let you be the design director. Then, the whole design department will be under your management. You could do whatever you want. Just suffer a little for now, accumulate more experience. When we get married, everything will be yours. Don't always fuss over immediate gains and losses. Take the long view. A trace of mockery flashed in Julian's eyes, but on the surface, he chimed in, yeah, later, the company will belong to the two of you. I found it extremely ridiculous. Before, when I proposed, she claimed that to prevent people from saying I was with her for money, we needed a prenuptial agreement stating I couldn't touch a cent of her money. The content of the agreement was still vivid in my mind, yet now she spoke like this. I shook my head and said coldly, Chloe, let's break up. I hope you won't pester me anymore. As soon as the words fell, Chloe froze in place, her eyes full of disbelief. Break up? Ethan, what nonsense are you talking about? Julian stood by, a flash of pleasure in his eyes, as if waiting to watch a good show. Yeah, how can you break up with Chloe over a small matter? Don't you know Chloe always has you in her heart? Even when watching shows abroad, seeing designs you like, the first person she thought to share with was you. Hearing this, my lips curved into a cold arc. Even now, he didn't forget to mention watching the show abroad to sting me. Julian truly demonstrated his superiority at every moment. Yes, Chloe had shared quite a few runway photos with me in messages, saying things like this style suits you so well, or let's study this together when I get back. But stopped at words. Since returning to the country, well, had she spent half a thought on me? On the contrary, Julian, under the guise of being a stepbrother, frequently went out with her, and she always received gifts and care from Chloe. Who Chloe actually loved had long been clear at a glance. Seeing Julian speak up for her, she seemed to find her courage. Recovering from the shock just now, her anger grew. She crossed her arms and sneered, Exactly, Ethan. What right do you have to break up with me? From the time you entered the company until now, the job was given by my family, connections were managed by me. Besides drawing a few broken pictures, what else can you do? Without me, could you even survive? She blurted out a long string of accusations, fluent, as if rehearsed countless times in her heart. Watching her like that, I suddenly found it funny. So in your eyes, I've always just been a pathetic wretch who can't survive without you. Chloe stood rigid, seemingly not expecting this reaction from me. After a long while, she said softly with a trace of imperceptible panic. I didn't mean that. Ethan, I know you misunderstand me and think I affected you too, but Chloe really just treats me as a brother. We grew up together, so our feelings are naturally thicker. Don't fail her sincere heart because of a momentary fit of pique. I stopped walking, turned back to stare at him coldly, and asked word by word, so the thick sibling affection you speak of, is it the kind where you can kiss? As soon as my words fell, Chloe reacted like a cat whose tail was stepped on, instantly exploding. Ethan Cole, you are simply unreasonable. She pointed at my nose in exasperation. Fine, break up, right? Don't regret it. I want to see how many days you can last in this industry without the Sterling family. Don't come kneeling to beg me then. Julian also immediately switched to an expression of kindness taken for ill intent, embracing Chloe's shoulders. His tone carried hypocritical regret. Ethan, you're just too impulsive. Chloe, let's go back. Let him calm down first. Watching their retreating figures, I let out a breath. 2 days later, at the company, Chloe vaguely heard colleagues whispering in the break room. Did you hear? Little Ethan's grandmother passed away. It seems she died on the day of the wedding, angered to death by his fiancée. It seems it was a heart attack. No wonder he suddenly resigned to go abroad for further studies. Looks like he was hurt badly by his fiancée. Those fragments of words struck Chloe's ears like thunder. Grandma passed away, going abroad for studies? She froze in place, the coffee cup in her hand almost slipping. An unprecedented panic instantly seized her heart. She almost immediately rushed out of the company, but when she drove speedily to my apartment, she found I had already left. The neighbor told her I had gone to the airport with luggage early in the morning. Chloe's face turned pale. She called me. I didn't want to answer, but she kept calling. Helpless, I pressed the answer button. Is there something? Ethan, why didn't you tell me Grandma passed away? Would telling you have been useful? Chloe froze for a second, then said urgently into the phone, Wait for me. I'm already on the way to the airport. I just spoke flatly. Don't come, there's no need. I'm through security. Let's leave it at that. After speaking, I hung up the phone. When Chloe arrived, I had already passed security. She was blocked outside the security line, crying and begging me not to leave her. Ethan, don't go, okay? I was wrong. As long as you're willing to stay, I'm willing to change everything. I'll tell my dad right now, we'll get married. And then in 2 years, we'll have a baby, okay? As long as you stay, I'll agree to anything. I definitely won't get so close to Julian anymore. Ethan, really? Believe me. Give me one more chance, okay? Once, I forgave her countless times and felt jealous and sad for her many times. She never repented. Now that I had accumulated enough disappointment, what use was saying these things? Her claims of loving me and begging me were not because she truly loved me, but because she couldn't accept that I no longer loved her and unconditionally fawned over her. But she forgot, I'm also a human, not a toy that only listens obediently. You don't know yet, do you? At the wedding, it was the intimate photos of you and your dear brother that literally angered Grandma to death. Now you come to tell me this. Do you think it's still useful? Chloe's face solidified instantly. She hurriedly choked out, Ethan, he and I really have nothing. I don't know why it turned out like that. I didn't mean to anger Grandma. I beg you don't go, okay? As long as you stay, I'm willing to compensate you. I'm willing to do anything. Chloe, go back. Don't pester me anymore. We are impossible now. Chloe said with a crying tone, Ethan, the person I love has always only been. Before she finished speaking, Julian came to the airport to find her. She immediately stopped her unspoken words. Seeing me turn to leave, she actually made a promise toward my retreating back with deep affection. Ethan, I'll wait for you to come back. When the time comes, I will definitely make up a wedding of the century that belongs to us. Hearing her promise of a wedding of the century, my heart didn't ripple in the slightest. I just felt it was ironic. I was too lazy to even turn my head. She hadn't yet discovered that in that so-called our apartment, all traces belonging to me, my sketches, my fabric samples, the drawing pen I used most often when staying up late designing, had long been cleared out by me. I wouldn't be coming back. The plane landed in New York. The cold, damp air rushed at my face, carrying a kind of free sharpness. The one picking me up was my childhood friend, Ben Miller. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land, especially at the lowest point in life, made this friendship seem particularly precious. Seeing me, he greeted me enthusiastically, patting my arm vigorously. Finally arrived. Ethan, if you hadn't come, I would have suspected you were kidnapped by some wolf of Wall Street. He took the heavy suitcase from my hand and familiarly led me toward his second-hand Jeep in the parking lot. In the car, Ben navigated through traffic while chattering about his experiences in New York over the past 2 years. He studied computer science and had come to NYU for grad school 2 years before me. Now he was interning at a startup, living the typical New Yorker life, staying in a not-so-spacious apartment in Brooklyn, earning a not-so-hefty salary, yet full of longing and drive for the future. You don't know, when I first came, the language barrier, cultural differences, and heavy coursework almost drove me crazy, he said, shaking his head with a smile, though his tone carried the composure of someone who had weathered hardships. But it's fine once you get through it. Thinking back now, that suffering wasn't in vain. At least it let me know my worth and see the path I want to take clearly. What about you? Is everything handled back home? He changed the subject, probing carefully. He knew roughly about Chloe and me, having kept me company via transoceanic calls during countless nights when I was most oppressed. I looked at the skyscrapers rapidly retreating outside the window, my voice calm. Yeah, it's completely over. Grandma's funeral is handled, and I have no ties with her anymore. Ben was silent for a moment, then sighed heavily. It's good that it's over. That kind of princess, we can't climb that social ladder, nor can we serve her. Since you're in New York, start over. With your talent, where can't you shine? I pulled the corners of my mouth. Yeah, start over. I told him I had been accepted into the master's program at Parsons School of Design. This was a dream buried in my heart for years, when I almost gave up for so-called stability and catering to the Sterling family's expectations. I planned to solidly complete my studies first, get in touch with more cutting-edge design concepts and technologies. New York is a fashion capital. There are many opportunities and fierce competition. I want to see how far I can actually go. As I spoke of my plans, my heart gradually became firm. Ben was very supportive. No problem. Just speak up if you need help with anything in life. By the way, crash at my place for a few days first. I'll help you look out for apartments near the school. For the rest of the day, Ben took me to get familiar with the environment in Manhattan. We ate a Chinese meal that wasn't authentic, but was enough to comfort homesickness, chatting about each other's current situations and visions for the future, as if returning to our carefree teenage years. With a friend by my side, the sense of alienation in a foreign land was diluted significantly. The next day, I went to register at Parsons. The brand new environment, intensive courses, vastly different teaching methods, and talented, ambitious classmates from all over the world made me feel unprecedented pressure and challenge. The language barrier was the first obstacle. Professional terminology and fast-paced classroom discussions often made me struggle. Cultural differences and clashes in design concepts also took time to adapt to. In the first few weeks, I lived quite wretchedly, often staying in the studio until late at night, repeatedly revising design drafts, looking up materials, and practicing the language. But strangely, this pure busyness, striving for dreams and my own future, made me feel an unprecedented fulfillment. Physical fatigue couldn't outweigh the peace and focus in my heart. Gradually, I began to keep up with the pace. Relying on solid fundamentals and a desperate effort, my design assignments began to get approval from mentors, and I even received good evaluations in a small conceptual design selection. I frantically learned new knowledge. The inspiration and creativity, once obscured by the haze of emotions, sprouted and grew again in the new soil. Suddenly, a call from Chloe briefly broke my calm. Ethan, where are your things in the apartment? Your sketches, your award certificates. Why are they all gone? Didn't you say you were just going for further studies for a while? I said irritably. When did I say I was just going for further studies for a while? She asked in shock. Could it be you're not coming back? Chloe, we are done. Please don't contact me again. And your good brother Julian wouldn't want to see you like this either. My deliberate alienation and mention of Julian seemed to prick her like a needle. The breathing on the other end of the phone suddenly became rapid, and then suppressed sobbing actually came through. Ethan, don't say angry words. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. It was me being immature. I shouldn't have ignored your feelings. She confessed through sobs, but I just interrupted indifferently. Can you stop being fake? Chloe, if I'm not mistaken, Julian is right next to you, isn't he? The other end of the phone instantly fell into a dead silence. A moment later, Julian's annoying voice sounded, carrying a pretentious tone of persuasion. Ethan, you went abroad in a fit of pique just to prove yourself, didn't you? You have to know, with our family's strength and connections, Chloe can open up domestic connections and resources for you. As long as you listen obediently, you won't have to work hard alone outside. Can't you calculate this account clearly? Don't trouble yourself. After speaking, I hung up the phone without hesitation. Unexpectedly, Chloe was relentless and continued to message me. Ethan, I know quite a few top designers in New York. Do you need me to introduce you? I can also find connections to put in a word with Parsons professors. As long as you're willing to talk to me properly, I can overlook previous matters and can even fund you to start your own brand in New York. You know the Sterling family has this capability. Seeing I was unmoved, her tone gradually became anxious, even carrying threats. Ethan Cole, I advise you not to be ungrateful. As long as you listen obediently, I can use connections to make several buyer shops and brands in New York pay attention to your works. Making you famous quickly isn't very hard. If you don't want to return to the country, wait for me there. At most 1 year, and I'll come and find you. But if you continue to be ungrateful like this, don't blame me for using my own ways to make you recognize reality. These words, full of desire for control and humiliation, dissipated the last bit of nostalgia I had for the past. She seemed to never learn respect, forever thinking she could manipulate me with resources and threats. Even more disgusting was that occasionally, after a string of her threatening messages, a persuasion from Julian would be sandwiched in. His tone was as disgusting as ever. Chloe just has a quick temper, but she really cares about you. Why do you have to be so stubborn? Just bow your head, and the matter will pass. Chloe won't really make things difficult for you. Every sentence of his was criticizing my immaturity and ungratefulness. I didn't reply to any messages, nor did I block them. Not because of lingering affection, but because I wanted to watch what kind of ridiculous drama they could still perform. In the days that followed, I poured all my energy into studying and creating. Life in New York gradually got on track. My coursework at Parsons became increasingly manageable. My mentor, Ms. Caroline, a designer known in the industry for her sharp eyes and strict requirements, gave evaluations of quite promising for several of my assignments. This allowed me to finally see a ray of dawn under the heavy academic pressure. Since coming to New York, I have been supporting myself by working odd jobs and submitting design drafts. As autumn deepened, I submitted a set of meticulously drawn design drafts to a well-known fashion company. This set of designs fused urban function with utilitarian aesthetics. I believe it fit the market and didn't lack ingenuity. But a few weeks later, the results were announced, and my work wasn't selected. What clogged my heart even more was that the selected work was a set of incredibly safe designs with almost no memorable points. Dull colors, conservative silhouettes. It looked like a uniform product from an assembly line. My classmate Emily, who also participated in the submission, whispered injustice for me in the lounge. "Ethan, your design was way better than the one that won." "It's fine." I suppressed the emotions surging in my heart and smiled at Emily. Commercial choices have their own standards. Not long after, my frustration was quickly replaced by another goal, the Academy's annual cross-boundary newcomer design competition. This was a grand event in the academic world. Winners would receive close attention from industry giants. My entry was a formal gown I had conceived for a long time. The inspiration came from an old cheongsam left by my grandmother and Western paintings I saw at the MoMA. I cleverly combined the Mandarin collar and slanted placket elements of the Chinese cheongsam with the fishtail hem of a Western gown. For the main body, I chose plain satin that flowed like moonlight, but at the hem, I prepared to embroider asymmetric, modern geometric patterns using delicate Suzhou embroidery techniques, like a dialogue between Oriental inkwash and Western deconstructivism. For this dress, I almost lived in the studio, refining every detail. The night before the competition, I finally finished the last stitch. Looking at the work shining on the mannequin, fatigue was replaced by immense satisfaction. I carefully locked in the studio's dedicated storage cabinet and left full of anticipation. On the third day, the competition venue was crowded with people and bright lights as judges and the audience entered one after another. I arrived at the backstage preparation area early, opening the storage cabinet with excitement, only to see a ruined dress. The dress, which condensed my countless efforts, had been maliciously destroyed. The body of the dress was slashed with sharp tools, leaving several hideous openings. The most serious part was the waist, where the fabric was almost torn apart. Other contestants around me had already noticed my distress, and whispers began to spread. Anger, heartache, and a cold chill instantly swept over me. "Oh my God! Ethan, what happened?" cried Leah, a friend in my group, attracting more gazes. The backstage supervisor rushed over upon hearing the noise. Seeing the miserable state of the dress, they gasped. How could this happen? It's almost our group's turn to go on stage. What do we do now? Are you going to forfeit?" Leah asked worriedly. "Forfeit? No, absolutely not." My gaze rapidly swept over the chaotic props area backstage, my brain working at high speed. Suddenly, I locked onto a roll of black elastic strapping used to secure backdrops, and next to it, several antique bronze metal buckles for decoration. A bold idea flashed through my mind. Leah, help me get that roll of black strapping and scissors. Quick! As I spoke, I quickly took the damaged dress off the mannequin. Under the stunned gazes of everyone, I picked up the scissors and without hesitation, cut the torn fabric on both sides of the dress completely along the rips, forming two sharp high slits. Then, I took the wide-brimmed black elastic strapping and wrapped it tightly around the waist of the dress like a corset armor, perfectly covering and reinforcing the worst damage there. Finally, I buckled those few antique bronze metal rings irregularly and powerfully onto the black straps and shoulder straps. My movements were as fast as lightning, without the slightest hesitation, as if this were not an emergency rescue, but an impromptu creation. Ethan, you are. The backstage professor watched, dumbfounded. When the staff urged our group to prepare to go on stage, I had already completed the final adjustments. The originally gentle and graceful gown had completely changed appearance. The high-slit skirt brought a fierce momentum, and the black armor at the waist and metal buckles were full of power and unruliness, forming an extremely strong visual conflict with the oriental charm retained in the upper body. It was as if a gentle dancer had instantly donned battle armor. My model, wearing this reborn dress, stepped onto the runway. The music started, lights hit the dress, and I could feel the gazes from the judges and audience below instantly turning toward it, a mix of surprise and inquiry. The display segment ended, entering the judge's critique. The head judge, the famous Chinese-American designer Ms. Vivian Chun, looked at me sharply. Contestant Ethan Cole, your work seems to have a considerable discrepancy with the submitted design concept. Can you explain? The whole venue went quiet. I took the microphone, took a deep breath, and spoke calmly. Ms. Chun judges, less than half an hour before going on stage, my dress was maliciously destroyed by someone, almost impossible to display. A low gasp rang out from the audience. I continued, but I think the spirit of design should not stop at presenting perfection, but lies more in how to transform sudden brokenness into a new aesthetic language. So, I used the only materials backstage to modify it. Ripped silk is not necessarily an end. It can also be the beginning of a new life. This fractured silk, rebirth, retains the oriental base and integrates Western deconstruction and power. Perhaps, this is a more profound interpretation of cross-boundary and newcomer. It is not only a fusion of styles, but also the courage to break shackles and reshape oneself when facing adversity. My voice fell, and the scene was silent. Immediately, Ms. Vivian Chun was the first to applaud, her eyes holding undisguised appreciation. Well said. What's even more brilliant is the soul you endowed the work with. You sublimated a disaster into a presentation with more impact and memorability. This is the boldness and talent a designer should have. Other judges also nodded in agreement, and warm applause rang out from the audience. I stood on the stage, looking at the flashing lights and approving gazes below. What surged in my heart was not lingering fear, but an unprecedented firmness and strength. The applause surged like a tide, then slowly receded. Standing on the podium of the cross-boundary newcomer design competition, holding the trophy, what I felt was not only an honor, but a firmness breaking through the soil. That fractured silk crisis manufactured by Chloe did not crush me. Instead, it became the first turning point in my career as a designer, making me deeply realize the power of creativity and resilience. The spotlight effect of the competition appeared quickly. Ms. Vivian Chun extended an olive branch to me, inviting me to intern at her haute couture studio. I didn't hesitate at all and seized this opportunity countless people dreamed of. In the days at the Chun studio, I immersed myself in precise control of top-tier craftsmanship, fabrics, and client needs, deeply integrating Parsons' theoretical knowledge with the industry's strict standards. Mentor Caroline wrote in an email after learning of it, "Ethan, you prove that true talent cannot be obscured. Happy for you." At the same time, that fractured silk, rebirth gown, due to the story behind it and its unique visual impact, was featured in a special report by a cutting-edge fashion media outlet, causing quite a stir online. An independent singer actually contacted me through the studio, hoping I would customize a performance outfit with a similar spirit for her next MV. This was my first true personal client. I poured out all I had learned, and the delivered work surprised her immensely. This substantial design fee, along with the internship stipend, finally allowed my life in New York to escape the embarrassment of financial straits. Time flew in busyness and fulfillment. 2 years later, I graduated from Parsons with excellent grades. My graduation collection, Urban Landscape, received the highest evaluation from the Academy. I didn't choose to immediately enter a large company. Instead, relying on my accumulated portfolio, competition honors, and the reputation built at Chin Studio, I began taking projects as an independent designer. I focused on providing personalized designs for specific clients while establishing stable cooperation with several niche buyer shops that share my philosophy. Every step was taken steadily and solidly. Another 2 years passed. After accumulating enough experience, capital, and a small but refined team, I formally registered my own brand in New York, Pink Bear. The brand's core concept was beauty and cuteness, focusing on combining Oriental aesthetic heritage with modern urban wear needs, blending fashion beauty with lovely goodness, while emphasizing the balance of tailoring, fabric, and practicality. We avoided the torrent of fast fashion, adhering to slow work, producing fine products. Through meticulously planned social media content, cooperation with compatible fashion bloggers, and precise placement in niche channels, we gradually accumulated a group of loyal customers and a good reputation in the industry. Just as my brand began to rise steadily and the team was busy preparing for the first independent fashion show, a transoceanic phone call broke the silence of an afternoon. The caller ID was a strange domestic number, but the area code pointed to that city I hadn't returned to for a long time. I picked up the phone. A slightly old and tired voice came from the other end, carrying a trace of imperceptible fawning. "Is it Ethan? It's Uncle Arthur, Chloe's father." My heart paused slightly, my tone remaining polite but distant. "Chairman Sterling, hello. Is there something the matter?" The other end was silent for a few seconds, seemingly weighing words. "Ethan, I heard you're developing very well in New York and founded your own brand. Uncle is very happy for you." He paused, changing the subject, his tone carrying unconcealable heaviness. "To be honest, the Sterling Group has encountered some difficulties in recent years. Chloe was too radical in some decisions and invested in a few unreliable projects, causing major problems with the group's capital chain. Plus, our designs in recent seasons have had mediocre responses. The market has been squeezed by many emerging brands. We haven't had a hit product for a long time." I listened quietly, not interrupting. I had heard rumors of these situations through friends in the industry. The Sterling Group clung to tradition. Their design thinking was rigid, plus they loved internal fighting, weren't united at all, and suppressed newcomers. Falling behind in the rapidly changing fashion torrent to become what it was today was almost inevitable. Seeing I didn't respond, Uncle Arthur's tone became more urgent. "Ethan, look, can we cooperate? Your design talent is recognized. Sterling's production lines and channels are all still there. As long as you are willing to provide design drafts for us, we can give you the most generous profit sharing and can even link with your brand for promotion. This is absolutely a win-win." He painted a seemingly beautiful prospect of cooperation, but between the lines, a message was revealed. Sterling Group urgently needed fresh blood to save the decline, and they had their eyes on my design ability. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window of the office, overlooking the bustling street scene of New York. Flashing through my mind were the glaring screen at the wedding, the design drafts stained by coffee, and Chloe's suppression and targeting of me. "Chairman Sterling," my voice was calm and firm, without a ripple. "Thank you for your recognition. But, I'm sorry, I cannot cooperate with Sterling Group." "Why?" Uncle Arthur's tone held astonishment and a trace of imperceptible despair. "Ethan, I also learned later that Chloe did some excessive things to you in the past and caused you certain harm. I apologize to you on her behalf. But business is business. This is also a chance for you to quickly open up the domestic market. This has nothing to do with the past." I interrupted him, my tone remaining cool. "This is my personal choice. Pink Bear is my lifeblood. I don't wish for its designs to be bundled with a brand whose philosophy doesn't align and is currently in trouble. Besides, I don't have the energy to do other work right now. I have my own development plan and brand positioning." I paused, then added, "Also, Chairman Sterling, strictly speaking, the root of Sterling Group's problems may not lie entirely in design, but more in business philosophy and decision-making mechanisms. Without changing fundamentally, even with good designs, I'm afraid it will be hard to reverse the decline. I'm very busy. The brand's debut show is imminent, and there are many things to handle. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Ethan, reconsider. We can discuss the terms again." Uncle Arthur was still trying to make me stay. "Sorry, Chairman Sterling. I wish your company finds a way out soon. Goodbye." I didn't give him another chance and decisively ended the call. Putting down the phone, my heart was unusually calm. No pleasure of revenge, nor the slightest wavering. Everything about the Sterling family was, to me, already an echo of the last century. Their rise and fall could no longer stir waves in my heart. My assistant knocked and entered, handing over a document. Mr. Cole, the fabric procurement plan for next quarter needs your final confirmation. Also, the show's music director wants to communicate details with you again this afternoon. Okay, I'll look at it right away. I took the document and quickly threw myself into the intense work. Hanging up that call from Uncle Arthur, filled with pleading and destitution, my heart was calm and waveless. The haze of the past had long been dispelled by the fulfilling and creative life before me. I lowered my head to continue reviewing the fabric procurement plan brought by the assistant, fingertips sliding over those soft or stiff samples, outlining the colorful picture of Pink Bear for the next season in my mind. Mr. Cole. Assistant Lisa poked her head in again, a smile on her face. Miss Serena Hart is here. She says she wants to chat with you about new ideas for the next tour's costumes. Serena Hart, that Mandapop little diva. The collaboration on her MV costume design last time was very successful. Wearing the battle suit I designed, which fused futuristic feelings with soft elements, she shone radiantly on stage. The song and the visual complemented each other, receiving excellent responses. Her sweet, lively face and penetrating voice coincided perfectly with my brand's core positioning of beauty and cuteness. Since then, she became my regular client and a loyal fan of Pink Bear. Quick, invite her in. I put down the fabric samples in my hand, the corners of my mouth turning up unconsciously. Serena wore a simple, comfortable casual outfit, unadorned yet still bright-eyed and white-toothed. She walked into my office with a smile and sat naturally in the chair opposite me. Not disturbing your work, are you, Designer Cole? Ms. Hart's inspirational visit is the highest priority at any time. I smiled and poured her a glass of water. What style is the tour this time? We soon immersed ourselves in a heated discussion. She described the emotional core of the new songs, the stage atmosphere she wanted, both powerful, yet not losing her unique sweetness. I quickly sketched rough drafts, suggesting using gradient yarn to simulate nebulas or cleverly integrating cute bear ear elements into the shoulder or skirt designs. Our collision of thoughts always produced wonderful chemical reactions. At first, this was purely professional cooperation, but deeper exchanges time and time again allowed me to see her seriousness, professionalism, and dedication to art beyond the stage. Affection quietly sprouted. Our cooperation became more frequent. Sometimes she would come directly to my studio for fittings and modifications. During her fittings, I would give the most professional advice on how to adjust to better highlight her strengths, how to make the clothes more expressive on stage. She always trusted my judgment and occasionally offered unique insights from a performer's perspective, benefiting me greatly. The relationship went a step further, starting from a time she rehearsed for a new song. That day she mentioned in passing she was practicing a new song in the rehearsal studio and couldn't grasp some details well. Like a ghost led by fate, I took some inspiration sketches and the coffee she loved to the rehearsal studio. Through the glass, I saw her practicing dance steps over and over, repeatedly polishing a lyric, sweat soaking her forehead hair, but her eyes bright. That focus and passion for her profession deeply moved me. During a break, seeing me, she was pleasantly surprised. "Why are you here?" "Sending you some fuel." I raised the coffee and sketches in my hand, also seeing if any inspiration burst forth. After that day, I occasionally went to keep her company during rehearsals, giving her suggestions on stage presentation as a professional audience, and silently accompanying her when she was tired. My friend Ben knew and tooted on the phone. "Not bad, Ethan. Upgrading from designer to exclusive consultant and #1 fan? I see your motives are not pure." For the New York stop of her first global tour, I was naturally a guest of honor. Sitting in the audience, watching her in the spotlight, wearing the performance outfit I personally designed covered in fine shimmering sequins and cute bear claw dark patterns, singing moving love songs. In that moment, pride and an indescribable emotion overflowed in my heart. She shone brilliantly on stage, and I knew that within that brilliance, there was my painstaking effort. After the tour ended, I had a successful celebration banquet. The lights were soft, the atmosphere just right. Her team members, my good friend Ben, and a few other studio partners were there. Taking advantage of the warmth of slight intoxication, I pulled her to a relatively quiet terrace. The night breeze was slightly cool. The night view of New York spread out beneath our feet. My heartbeat was a bit fast. Looking at her side profile, appearing even more gentle under the moonlight, I gathered my courage. "Serena, I spoke softly, my voice carrying a trace of imperceptible nervousness. From the first cooperation to later accompanying your rehearsals, watching you shine on stage, I seemed to not only admire your talent, and not only be satisfied with being a partner. She turned her head, looking at me with bright eyes, saying nothing, waiting for me to continue. I want to participate more in your life, want to be your support when you're tired, want to design more beautiful clothes for you. I took a deep breath, looking firmly into her eyes. Also, Serena Hart, I like you. Can you be my girlfriend? I was a bit nervous. She listened quietly to me finish, a smile slowly blooming on her face, sweeter and more moving than any moment on stage, carrying a bit of shyness, but mostly joy. She said in a gentle and clear voice, "Okay." After falling in love, our lives and work intertwined more tightly. She remained my muse. I customized clothes for her to attend various award ceremonies and record programs, striving to perfectly display her charm each time, while also integrating Pink Bear cute elements. Every appearance received high praise. I would also try to adjust my schedule to watch every important performance of hers, encouraging her backstage. When she went into retreat to prepare a new album, I managed live trivia for her, being her most stable shield. My team and friends were all happy for us. Ben often teased, "Do you two count as double-bound in career and love?" A strong alliance. Assistant Lisa would tacitly help me cover when I meticulously prepared surprises for Serena. On a day significant to both of us, marking the 3rd anniversary of Pink Bear and a celebration night of Serena's latest album winning a major award, I reserved a table at a restaurant we frequented that overlooked the city night view, inviting only a few most important friends. When dessert was served, she curiously lifted the lid. What she saw was not cake, but a ring quietly lying in a velvet box. The shape was personally designed by me, like a circle of soft bear claws gently holding up a brilliant main diamond. Under the knowing and blessing gazes of friends and family, I knelt on one knee. "Serena," I looked up at her, my eyes full of unreserved love. 3 years. Pink Bear has grown up, and my love for you has only increased. Thank you for walking into my life, using your light to illuminate my whole world. The road ahead, I want to walk it with you forever, design beautiful clothes for you for a lifetime, and be your most loyal listener and reliance for a lifetime. Will you marry me? Serena's eyes reddened instantly, tears carrying a happy smile. She nodded vigorously and reached out her hand. Ethan Cole, I am willing to marry you." Amid the cheers and applause of friends and family, I put the ring on her, hugging tightly. Our wedding was warm and unique, completed under the witness of close family and friends. Serena didn't choose a traditional wedding dress, but wore a new-style wedding dress I specially designed for her. The skirt was embroidered with our names and musical note dark patterns, sweet, elegant, and unique. After marriage, we remained each other's best partners. She conquered the audience on stage. I opened up territory in the design field. We would discuss creativity in the studio together and also stay at home during holidays, enjoying ordinary warmth. Her smile remained the source of all my inspiration and the scenery I most wanted to see when returning home. One afternoon, sunlight filled the living room. She leaned on the sofa reading a book. I was modifying a new design draft nearby. A faint happiness flowed in the quiet atmosphere. I looked up at her focused side profile, my heart filled with indescribable satisfaction. She seemed to sense my gaze, lifted her head, and smiled beautifully at me. "What is it?" I put down the pen, walked over to sit beside her, held her hand, and said softly, "Nothing. I just feel that being able to marry you is a bit unreal. Makes me want to cry a little." 3 years passed. The development of Pink Bear in New York became increasingly stable, becoming a highly anticipated rising star in the niche affordable luxury field. My married life with Serena was also sweet and fulfilling. We supported each other in our careers and warmed each other in life. At a suitable opportunity, I decided to temporarily put aside the work at hand and return to the country to visit Grandma, to personally tell her this news that had been brewing in my heart for a long time. The cemetery in early spring carried a trace of coldness and tranquility. Holding a bouquet of white lilies, Grandma's favorite when she was alive, I walked along the familiar bluestone path to Grandma's grave. However, from a distance, I saw a woman wearing an expensive suit, her figure slightly thin, standing in front of Grandma's tombstone. It was Chloe Sterling. She seemed thinner than in my memory, but that air of deliberately maintained arrogance between her brows still existed. Hearing footsteps, she turned around. Seeing it was me, A trace of extremely complex emotion flashed in her eyes, surprise, panic, then quickly replaced by a kind of forced calm arrogance. Ethan Cole. A look of joy appeared on her face. You're back? When did this happen? Why didn't you tell me? I walked forward calmly, gently placed the lilies in front of the tomb, looked at the kind smile in Grandma's photo, my heart filled with mixed feelings. I turned to look at Chloe, my tone cold. There seems to be no need to report my itinerary for returning to the country to Miss Sterling. Chloe's face changed slightly, but she soon returned to that pretentiously high and mighty appearance. Ethan, I was wrong about what happened before. I apologize to you. So many years have passed. Can't you let go of the past? I shook my head gently, my gaze falling back on Grandma's tombstone. Miss Sterling, some hurts cannot be erased by a sentence of apology. Besides, I'm living very well now and don't want to be entangled with people and things from the past anymore. Chloe didn't seem to expect I would be so resolute. She bit her lip, a trace of unwillingness flashing in her eyes. Then what do you want me to do for you to forgive me? I straightened up and looked at her calmly. Chloe, I don't want to bring up past events. I came today just to talk to Grandma alone. The past. She seemed stung by this word, her volume raising slightly. How can it be past? Ethan, I know you still have me in your heart. You're just still angry with me. Angry I didn't attend the wedding back then. Angry I got close to Julian, right? She took a step forward, trying to grab my arm, but I turned sideways to avoid it. Her eyes became urgent. Ethan, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Look, all these years, I've been sweeping the grave for Grandma on your behalf, rain or shine. I have you in my heart all along. Shall we start over? I felt a wave of absurdity. I shook my head, my tone decisive. Chloe, we ended long ago. I am living very well now and am already married. Married? She seemed to hear a joke, carrying a kind of almost paranoid certainty. How is that possible? You've only been abroad a few years. How could you get married so quickly? And how could you let me go so easily? We had so many years of feelings. Are you still minding Julian? I really have nothing with him. He is just my brother. After you left, I already kept my distance from him. Watching Chloe's unrepentant appearance, I felt a deep sense of powerlessness and boredom. She seemed to live forever in the narrative she wove herself, refusing to see reality clearly. It has nothing to do with Julian Thorne. I interrupted the defense she repeated countless times, my tone carrying an unquestionable finality. Chloe, I'll say it one last time. We are finished. My life now has no you, and has long had no place left for you. I don't believe it. She almost screamed out, tears finally uncontrollably falling, ruining her meticulously drawn eyeliner. Ethan Cole, look at me. Look at me. We were together for so many years. Were those days fake? You said you would love me forever. How could you? How could you fall in love with someone else so easily and marry someone else? Her voice was full of despair and incomprehension, as if my betrayal was the sole reason for her world collapsing. She stepped forward, clutching my sleeve tightly, her nails almost embedding into the fabric. Is it because she has more money than me? Or could she give your career more help? Ethan, tell me, I could do it now too. My dad is sick. I'll soon be able to control the Sterling Group. I can give you far more than she can. She began to use her most familiar logic, resources and benefit exchange, to measure everything, trying to find a crack to salvage. This mindset precisely proved we were people from different worlds long ago. I forcefully brushed off her hand, stepped back to open up distance, my eyes cold. Don't think everyone is the same as you. I married her because I love her, nothing more. Love. Chloe seemed stung by this word. She smiled sorrowfully, her eyes unfocused. You love her? Then what about the love between us? Ethan, what does it count as? Is it so worthless? Gone just like that. She seemed to fall into her own emotional vortex, beginning to mutter to herself. I know, I was a bit willful before, ignored your feelings. But I regretted it later. I really regretted it. I come to keep Grandma company every day just to fulfill filial piety for you, to let you know I have you in my heart. Why won't you give me one more chance? Watching her like this, there was no movement in my heart, only pity. Everything she did, rather than repentance, was more like a self-touching performance. What she craved was my response and forgiveness to alleviate the guilt in her heart, not truly realizing she was wrong. I didn't want to carry on this meaningless dialogue with her anymore. So I directly took out my phone and showed the photo of my wife on the screen to Chloe. This is my wife, Serena Hart. My voice was calm and firm, carrying unquestionable happiness. We love each other very much. This is my life now. Chloe's gaze was nailed to the screen. That unfamiliar face, overflowing with happiness, was like a poison-dipped dagger, thoroughly piercing all her self-deception. She suddenly laughed out loud. "Ethan, you can't even lie well. This is a currently popular singer. Do you take me for blind? How could you possibly marry her?" Believe it or not, I didn't look at her again, turned to face Grandma's tombstone, bowed deeply, and said softly, "Grandma, I'll bring Serena to see you next time." Then, I turned around without hesitation and strode away along the path I came. Behind me, Chloe also left proudly. I returned to the hotel where I was staying. After reporting my itinerary to my wife and chatting for a while, I washed up and rested. Tomorrow night, I had to attend an exchange banquet hosted by the local fashion association, so I couldn't sleep too late. I had no intention of attending such social events, but the head of the association was a respected senior who had given me guidance when I first arrived in New York. I couldn't decline his personal invitation. Stepping into the banquet hall, crystal chandeliers flowed with color, fragrances and shadows mingled, and glasses clinked. I tried to exchange greetings with people in a low profile, but my gaze inadvertently collided with Chloe in the corner. She had obviously dressed up meticulously, wearing a flamboyant red dress, jewelry glittering, trying to regain her past glory. Seeing me, a gleam of a successful scheme flashed in her eyes. Holding a wine glass, she walked toward me, with that stepbrother Julian still following beside her. "Ethan, what a coincidence." She deliberately swirled the wine glass in her hand. "What? Your wife didn't accompany you? Looks like she's a busy person." Julian chimed in cooperatively with a low sneer, his eyes full of mockery. "Ethan, when did you get married? You didn't even invite us for a drink." Hearing this, Chloe's face changed slightly. I couldn't be bothered to talk to them, just said lightly, "Miss Sterling, my private matters don't require your concern." Chloe leaned in a step closer, lowering her voice, carrying a stubborn scent of perfume. "Ethan, stop pretending. I know you're still angry, but you can't use marriage to trick me." Before I had time to voice a rebuttal, a not-so-small commotion suddenly erupted at the entrance of the banquet hall, accompanied by several exclamations and rising and falling shutter sounds. Everyone's gaze, including Chloe and Julian's, was involuntarily attracted over. At the entrance, a graceful figure arrived flutteringly. She wore a pink bear, haute couture series gown I personally designed for her. Soft cherry blossom pink tones, simple and neat lines, only dotted with exquisite, three-dimensional tulle designs like little bear ears at the shoulder and neck, retaining the brand's cue genes while perfectly setting off her elegance and aura as a star. It was precisely Serena Hart. How could she be here? I was startled, then immense surprise surged up. She clearly said her schedule couldn't be arranged, and she would fly over to meet me 2 days later. Serena obviously saw me too. Across the crowd, she smiled at me. That smile was sweet as ever, but with a few more degrees of tenderness and intimacy than on stage. She ignored those trying to step up and strike a conversation, walking straight toward me. The eyes of the entire banquet hall focused on her, whispers incessant. "It's Serena Hart. Why is she here? Oh my God, she's wearing a pink bear gown? It's so beautiful." She walked over to that designer. They know each other. Amid everyone's stunned, probing gazes, Serena naturally walked to my side and extremely naturally reached out to interlock fingers with me. "Hello everyone. Let me introduce. This Mr. Cole is my partner, and also my husband." Her voice wasn't loud, but it clearly transmitted into everyone's ears, including Chloe and Julian, who were close at hand. The word husband exploded in Chloe's ear like thunder. The smile on her face froze instantly, blood draining from her face at a speed visible to the naked eye. Those eyes, originally holding smugness and provocation, were now written with unbelievable shock and shattering pain. She stared dead at our clasped hands, at the piercing wedding rings on our hands, her body swaying slightly, as if she would fall at any moment. Julian was also completely stunned, mouth open, looking like he'd seen a ghost. I held Serena's hand tightly back, the warmth in my heart dispersing all the haze born because of Chloe. I looked down at her, my eyes full of unreserved love and surprise. "Why did you arrive early? You didn't tell me. Wanted to give you a surprise." Serena smiled sweetly. Then, as if just noticing the pale-faced Chloe nearby, she nodded politely, her tone distant and polite. "And this is—" I introduced calmly, "This is Miss Chloe Sterling, the person in charge of Sterling Group." I didn't mention any past. Serena nodded knowingly, her smile still proper, but carrying a kind of calmness and grandeur. "Miss Sterling, hello. I often hear Ethan mention friends back home. Thank you for your care in the past." Her words were watertight, but clearly drew a line, categorizing Chloe thoroughly into past and friends. Chloe's lips trembled, wanting to say something but unable to make any sound. Her gaze was nailed to the hand Serena and I held tightly. She saw me naturally raise my hand to tidy some non-existent stray hair by Serena's ear. She saw the dependent and happy expression on Serena's face when she turned to whisper to me, and that kind of intimacy and tacit understanding flowing between us that outsiders simply couldn't intervene in. Her heart filled with jealousy, unwillingness, and humiliation. The high and mighty mask she meticulously maintained completely collapsed at this moment, shattered until not even dregs remained. No. Impossible. She finally squeezed a few words out through her teeth, her voice hoarse and unpleasant. How could you two? Serena didn't seem to care about her loss of composure, just tightening her hold on my arm, saying softly to me, "Honey, Mr. Abernathy is over there. Shall we go say hello?" Okay. I nodded, not looking at that woman who was about to crumble on the spot again. My wife and I calmly walked toward the depths of the banquet hall. Behind us, Julian's anxious low call could be faintly heard. Chloe, calm down." Julian quickly grabbed Chloe's hand, which wanted to flip the table. Chloe seemed to have all strength drawn away, slumping in the chair, eyes gazing hollowly in the direction we left. Seeing us walk over, Mr. Abernathy immediately showed a warm smile on his face. He came up to shake hands and chat cordially with us. People around seeing this scene cast envious and admiring looks one after another. Those who originally surrounded Chloe and Julian also gradually dispersed, turning their attention to us instead. This exchange banquet finally ended in a harmonious atmosphere. Since it was rare to return to the country, my wife and I stayed for a while longer. Just as the one-month vacation was about to end and we prepared to return to New York, Chloe found me again. This time, she came directly to the executive lounge of the hotel where I was staying, obviously having spent some effort to find out my accommodation. I finished processing emails and went downstairs, seeing her sitting in the corner at a glance. She was still dressed exquisitely, but no amount of heavy foundation could hide the dark circles under her eyes and the haggardness of her face. She was two different people from the proud facade at the banquet last time. Her eyes held only panic and fatigue. Ethan, seeing me, she immediately got up to welcome me, her tone carrying unprecedented urgency, even a trace of humble pleading. Can we talk? Just for a moment. I promise not to take up too much of your time. I didn't want to tussle with her in a public area and attract unnecessary attention, so I nodded slightly and sat down opposite her. As soon as she sat, she spoke impatiently, hands clasped nervously, knuckles turning white. Ethan, I know whatever I say now is useless, but I really have nowhere to go. Her voice was hoarse, eyes quickly turning red. My dad is in the hospital. His condition is very bad. It's Julian and his mom who harmed him. They want to steal my dad's company. She sniffed, as if using all her strength. Ethan, for the sake of our feelings for so many years in the past, help me, okay? I can't watch helplessly as my dad's lifeblood is stolen by them. Watching her humble pleading now, looking like a different person from before, what flashed through my mind were the intimate photos of her and her stepbrother at the wedding and that cold sentence on the phone. Why does her being so fragile have anything to do with me? Chloe, my voice was calm without waves. You come to me now mentioning feelings for so many years. I leaned forward slightly, looking directly at her suddenly contracting pupils. Then tell me, on our wedding day, when you abandoned me again to go see your stepbrother's show, angering Grandma to death, did you think about our feelings for so many years? Her face went violently pale, lips moving, trying to defend. But I didn't allow her to interrupt, continuing to use a steady and clear tone, word by word uncovering the old scar. Grandma was critically ill in the hospital. I called begging you to come back to see her one last time. What did you say? Why does her being so fragile have anything to do with me? I repeated that sentence of hers etched in my bones. Every word made her body tremble. At that time, what were our feelings for so many years? Her tears surged out instantly, shaking her head in panic. No, it wasn't like that, Ethan. I was possessed by a ghost at the time. I regretted it later. I really regretted it every day. Regret. I pulled the corner of my mouth, revealing a smile without temperature. This smile lashed her face like a whip. Your regret was to use connections to suppress my design drafts after I went abroad, to have someone destroy the dress I competed with. Chloe, is this your unique way of cherishing feelings? She froze completely, eyes dodging in terror, not daring to look at me. Now, you've encountered trouble and have nowhere to go. So you remembered we still have a past relationship that you long ago trampled until it was worthless? I looked at her, gaze sharp as a knife. Chloe, don't you feel you not only found the wrong person, but also calculated wrong? No. Ethan, listen to me explain. She tried to make a final struggle, voice choked and chaotic. But I had lost all patience. Enough. I interrupted her coldly, tone decisive. Regarding your family matters, I am powerless. I can only suggest you call the police. Call the police? Her reaction was like a startled bird. Blood drained from her face, almost screaming in denial. No, absolutely cannot call the police. That extreme reaction seemed to expose more hidden facts she hadn't stated. Why not? I stared at her tightly, allowing no evasion. She was rendered speechless by my question, just shaking her head desperately. I stood up, looking down at her. Everyone has to bear the consequences of their choices. I can't help. Look out for yourself. After speaking, I turned to leave. Seeing this, Chloe's last psychological defense seemed to collapse. She suddenly stood up, rushed a few steps to me, grabbed my arm with both hands, nails almost pinching into my flesh, voice shrill and despairing. Ethan, you can't go. You can't be so cruel. You can't watch helplessly as I die. She looked up, staring at me with blurred, teary eyes, tone turning into questioning and accusation. Ethan Cole, do you hate me that much? Must you watch me be driven to death by them to be satisfied? Hate you. I gently brushed off her hand and laughed lightly. That laughter carried thorough relief and alienation. No, you're wrong. I stopped hating you long ago. You are just an irrelevant past to me now. I live very well now. There's no need to waste energy on irrelevant people. She staggered back a step, body swaying, staring at me in disbelief, tears silently flowing turbulently, but suddenly laughed. That laughter was shrill and distorted, full of unwillingness and resentment. Good, very good. Irrelevant. Our feelings for so many years are just a phrase irrelevant to you. My tone held no ripple. Today's situation is the result of your own choices. It has nothing to do with others. Giving her no further chance to entangle, I walked straight toward the elevator, back straight. The moment the elevator doors slowly closed, I caught a final glimpse of her figure collapsing onto the sofa, like a flower drained of all water, withering rapidly. All her refinement, pride, and calculation shattered into powder in that instant. Returning to the room, Serena was leaning on the sofa reading. Seeing me enter, she put down the book and came up, asking softly, "What happened? You were gone so long. You don't look too good." I shook my head, pulling her warm, soft body into my arms, deeply breathing in the reassuring scent in her hair. The irritation generated by bringing up old matters was instantly smoothed. Nothing, just handled some old business. Chloe came to find me, said some things. Serena didn't pursue details, just knowingly patted my back gently, voice gentle. I looked down at her clear eyes and gentle, smiling face, feeling an unprecedented sense of rejoicing and satisfaction well up in my heart. Julian's childhood was spent in a nightmare woven of alcohol and violence. The man he called father had no proper job and was addicted to alcohol. Every time he came home drunk, what greeted him and his mother were endless curses and fists. He could only curl up in the corner, watching the bruises on his mother's body, listening to her suppressed weeping. The desire for power and escape grew madly in his heart like a poisonous vine. He hated that incompetent, violent biological father, and also hated this impoverished family where no hope could be seen. The turning point happened when he was 13. His mother, a woman with some looks and unwilling to accept the status quo, after careful investigation and several chance encounters, successfully attracted the attention of Arthur Sterling, who had recently lost his wife. Though he had a young daughter at home, Arthur was empty and lonely inside. She knew too well how to show weakness, how to use a man's sympathy. A few tearful complaints, telling the tragic experience of their mother and son being victims of domestic violence with no one to rely on, sure enough made the soft-hearted Arthur feel pity and start frequently assisting and caring for them. With more interaction, looking at this well-behaved, sensible boy Julian with timid eyes, and comparing him to his own little daughter Chloe, who was spoiled to be a bit willful, Arthur couldn't help but feel a few points more affection. Not long after, everything fell into place naturally. Julian's mother successfully ascended, taking Julian into the magnificent Sterling home that was like a palace he could only peek at from outside before. From the first day, stepping into the Sterling home, Julian and his mother knew their goal, to get everything of the Sterling family. Julian was well-versed in the way of survival. He restrained all the hostility cultivated in the slums, disguising himself as a gentle, considerate, slightly shy, good brother. He deliberately catered to and fawned over Chloe, patiently playing games he found childish with her, remembering all her preferences, and bravely standing up to take the blame for her when she made mistakes and was scolded by Arthur. He wanted to make this sister, who lacked maternal care since childhood and was spoiled to be a bit naive by her father, develop a deep dependence and good impression of him. As they grew older and entered adolescence, Julian keenly perceived that Chloe's sibling affection for him began to change quality. Instead of avoiding suspicion, he intensified his efforts. He began to intentionally or unintentionally engage in some ambiguous physical contact with her, putting his arm around her shoulder, affectionately rubbing her hair, even holding her tightly in his arms when she cried, wiping away her tears with his thumb, his eyes carrying a deliberately created affection beyond siblings. Watching Chloe blush, heart racing, and eyes dodging under his actions, he was filled with the pleasure of control. What he wanted was to make her have a romantic infatuation with him, to make her inseparable from him. Later, Julian was sent abroad to study. During that period, he didn't ignore Chloe but maintained a hot and cold contact, occasionally sending small gifts, saying ambiguous words of concern, keeping her firmly on the hook. When he graduated and returned, he specially brought a well-off, beautiful female companion, nominally a girlfriend, but actually to test Chloe's reaction. Sure enough, seeing Chloe's instantly pale face and forcefully suppressed jealousy, Julian sneered in his heart. This fool was indeed still deeply trapped in the love web he wove. However, when a man named Ethan Cole appeared beside Chloe, a talented designer with clear eyes, Julian felt threatened. He saw in Chloe's eyes looking at Ethan a true heartbeat and radiance he hadn't seen before. This made him extremely unhappy, as if his own toy was about to be snatched away, and even more afraid that Ethan's appearance would make his years of planning fall short. He acted immediately, finding Chloe, pretending to be disappointed and lonely, telling her, "I broke up with her. Chloe, drink with me." Under the atmosphere of alcohol and deliberately created fragility, he half-truthfully recounted romantic unluckiness, guiding Chloe to view Ethan as an intruder, destroying their special relationship. He constantly hinted in Chloe's ear that Ethan Cole, approaching you probably has ulterior motives. He's eyeing the Sterling family background, right? With his background, how is he worthy of you? Only your brother treats you sincerely and will never hurt you. He successfully used Chloe's jealousy and insecurity to bury seeds of suspicion between her and Ethan. He even inadvertently suggested, "You have to let him know, leaving the Sterling family, he is nothing, Chloe." Thus, vicious ideas like suppressing Ethan's design drafts and destroying his competition opportunities became reality step by step under Julian's inducement and the execution of Chloe, the knife. Watching Chloe hurt the man who truly loved her for him, Julian was filled with twisted pleasure. A few years passed, and the time gradually matured. Arthur was old and his health was failing, while Ethan's presence remained an unstable factor that might allow Chloe to escape control. So, Julian planned the final blow. He meticulously planned an overseas fashion show and deliberately set the time to be the same as Chloe and Ethan's wedding. He knew that with Chloe's pathological infatuation with him and the willfulness he had cultivated in her for a long time, as long as he spoke, she would choose him. Sure enough, under his bewitchment of "this is my most important show, I hope you can witness it together, and it's fine to postpone the wedding. If he really loves you, he has to listen to you," Chloe chose him without hesitation. But this wasn't enough. He wanted to completely destroy Ethan, making Chloe abandoned by everyone, so she could only rely on him more. So, he made a bolder arrangement. He secretly mixed some intimate photos of him and Chloe into the commemorative video prepared for the wedding. On the wedding day, when that intimate photo appeared starkly on the giant screen, the chaos and humiliation triggered were imaginable. He didn't believe Ethan could endure even that. What was unexpected was Ethan's grandmother dying of anger on the spot. But luckily, it was able to completely cause the relationship between Ethan and Chloe to rupture. Ethan, the biggest obstacle, was completely removed. As for Arthur, suffering successive blows from the company's continuous losses, plus the chronic poison in the porridge his mother cooked, his body collapsed completely, and he was hospitalized. The power of the Sterling Group finally fell logically into the hands of him and his mother. Watching Arthur dying in the hospital, and that foolish sister who was played in the palm of his hand and still couldn't see the truth, Julian only felt incredibly carefree. Mother and son endured for many years, racked their brains, and finally seized this huge family property. standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of the Sterling Group CEO's office. Overlooking the city beneath his feet, he revealed an undisguised, cold, and greedy smile. In the country, Chloe sat alone in the empty, cold villa. On her phone screen was Julian's hypocritical face accepting an interview, pretending to say he would take good care of my sister and stabilize the group. Chloe thought of her father, thought of the tonic soup Victoria Thorne brought to her father, and the sentence Julian whispered in her ear when she was dragged away by security. Good sister, behave yourself, and you might still have a way to live. Otherwise, going down to accompany your dad isn't bad either. Past events intertwined into a net of despair, wrapping her tightly, suffocating her. Her tears poured out uncontrollably. Only now did she know her good brother was a wolf in sheep's clothing. He had been harming her all along. He was the one inciting her to be estranged from Ethan. It was her own blindness and deafness that led to misjudging people, leading to today's outcome. One afternoon in late autumn in New York, while I was selecting fabric samples for the next season's new products with Serena in the studio, my phone vibrated silently on the table. It was a transoceanic text message from a strange number. The message was very long. The sender wasn't signed, but the despair revealed between the lines and the familiar tone made me instantly confirm the identity. Chloe. Ethan, when you receive this message, please forgive me for disturbing you one last time. I know I long ago lost the qualification to say anything to you, but there are some truths I must tell you, also considered as making a belated closure for myself. I saw Julian's computer, that encrypted hard drive he never lets leave his body. Inside are complete records of how he and that poisonous woman Victoria Thorne plotted for years to embezzle the Sterling family assets. And those few photos from our wedding day. My fingers tightened abruptly, the phone screen seeming to turn a few degrees colder. Serena noticed my strangeness and looked over worriedly. I shook my head gently, signaling nothing was wrong, and continued reading. It was Julian. From the beginning, he was deliberately approaching me, making me estranged from you. Starting from when he deliberately approached me and fawned over me in childhood, to confusing me with those ambiguous actions after growing up, it was all his conspiracy. Mother and son were ungrateful dogs from the start, suppressing your design drafts, destroying your competition opportunity. These dirty ideas were all initially inadvertently instilled in me by him. He used my jealousy and stupidity, treating me as a knife to hurt the person who truly treated me well. And I, this utter fool, actually believed his ghost talk, thinking he was the person who understood me and loved me most in the world. Ethan, the person I'm most sorry to is you and Grandma. I only understand now that back then, at the wedding, the so-called important show I abandoned you to run to was fundamentally one of the links he meticulously planned to humiliate you. That photo mixed into the video was also prepared by him long ago. It was him who indirectly killed Grandma, and also him who destroyed every possibility between us. I know saying this now is already too late. Apologies are ridiculously pale in front of Grandma's life and your destroyed wedding. I also dare not beg for your forgiveness anymore. The one wrong was never you. It was me being blind and heart-blind. I deserve it. And my dad, he didn't die of natural illness. It was Victoria Thorne who tampered with his medicine. Julian was the accomplice. They stole my dad's company, and now they've killed him. Ethan, I am sorry for all the harm I caused you, for my stupidity and viciousness, and for Grandma. The message stopped abruptly here. I held the phone, unable to speak for a long time. Outside the window was the still, bustling street scene of New York, but this message from a distant country was like a cold wind from the abyss, blowing away all the fog of the past. Then I edited a paragraph and sent it to her. It's all in the past. Take care, signifying I had already let go. In the country, after Chloe sent that long message, she calmly deleted the record, took out the SIM card, snapped it, and flushed it down the sewer. There was no expression on her face. Her eyes were a kind of dead gray after burning out. She dressed up meticulously, putting on a red dress she liked most, a gift from her father at her coming-of-age ceremony. Then, she dialed Julian's number. Julian, her voice was unusually calm, even carrying a trace of long-lost dependence, as if returning to the past. Is Aunt Victoria home? I've thought it through. I agreed to sign the equity transfer documents left by Dad. Tonight, let's have a meal together. Dad's funeral was too rushed. We haven't been able to have a good meal together. Julian, on the other end, seemed a bit surprised, but hearing the words equity transfer, vigilance was suppressed by greed. He and Victoria were both in that villa that now belonged to them. Regarding Chloe, this loser who had lost everything and seemingly finally accepted her fate, They didn't suspect anything, even agreeing with the kind of pleasure of victors tasting the final fruit. Dinner was arranged in the villa's dining room. The long dining table was full of exquisite dishes, but the atmosphere was strange and cold. Chloe behaved unusually docilely, even actively pouring wine for Victoria and Julian. Victoria and Julian looked at each other, a trace of doubt flashing in their eyes, but mostly disdain. They drank that wine. After 3 rounds of drinks, Chloe looked at them and suddenly started laughing. The laughter was hollow and desolate. "Julian, your computer hard drive password is the date you moved into the Sterling home, right?" The smile on Julian's face froze instantly. "I saw the things inside," Chloe said word by word, eyes like knives dipped in poison. "How you seduced my dad, how you calculated against me, how you suppressed Ethan, how you put that photo at the wedding, and how you killed my dad. I saw everything." Victoria stood up abruptly, face pale. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Nonsense," Chloe sneered. "Need I play those photos, recordings, and transfer records right in front of you?" Julian's eyes were sinister. He tried to rush over violently, but suddenly felt dizzy, his whole body weak. Victoria also felt unwell at the same time, collapsing in the chair. What did you put in the wine?" Julian gasped for breath, looking at Chloe in horror. "Nothing." Chloe slowly stood up, taking out a small metal canister from the handbag she brought. Inside was transparent liquid. The strong smell of gasoline instantly permeated the air. "Just something to make you stay quiet. Don't worry, the dose isn't large, won't kill you, just makes you unable to move. How could I let you die so easily?" She began to splash gasoline on the thick carpet of the dining room, on the expensive curtains, on Victoria and Julian's terrified but immobile bodies. "No, Chloe, you can't do this. I'm your brother, Chloe." Julian let out a desperate roar. "Brother?" Chloe laughed madly, tears pouring out. "Are you worthy? You killed my dad, destroyed my life. I want you to die in the most painful way. Only then can a little of my hatred be dispelled." Victoria tried to beg for mercy, making whimpering sounds, but was choked by the strong gasoline smell and a violent coughing. Chloe stood at the door, taking a last look at this house, carrying all her happy and painful memories. Looking at those 2 enemies struggling on the sofa, faces distorted by extreme fear. She flicked the lighter. An orange-red flame jumped in her hollow pupils. "Go down together and repent to my dad." She let go of her hand. Flames rose with a boom, rapidly swallowing everything, including those shrill screams swallowed by the fire. When firefighters and police finally extinguished the fire and found 3 charred bodies in the ruins, everything was long irretrievable. Chloe Sterling, the wealthy heiress once favored by thousands, finally perished together with her stepmother and stepbrother, whom she hated to the bone in such a tragic way, drawing a bloody period to her twisted and tragic life. When the news came, I was selecting a gown for Serena's concert. Putting down the phone, looking at Serena's gentle and quiet face in the mirror, my heart was peaceful. All kindness and resentment had burned out with that fire, and my life had already welcomed a warm and lasting light that truly belonged to me. Story complete.